Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new edition of Four Friends in a Book podcast. My name is Chris Colston, and I'm joined here with my friends Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, The Real Reed, and this book, Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. All right, so look, highly controversial book, but we about to get into this one. But first and foremost, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the podcast, Four Friends in a Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around the book that we're reading together. And so we come here to discuss that book and also talk about current events, hot topics that may or may not relate to it. So somewhat of a book club mixed with just table talk amongst friends. And of course, at the end, we hit you with these informative, passionate rants from none other than my brother, Mr. Isaiah Duke. So, again, if you're new, please go back, check out our old episodes, continue to like, share, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend about Four Friends in a Book podcast. All right, let's jump into it. So, if unless you've been living under a rock, this whole Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith
All the way.
movement has been crazy for a while now. And of
Mhm.
course, we read Will Smith's memoir, Will, self-titled Will, in a previous season of Four Friends in the Book. So it was only fitting that we came back when Jada announced that she had a book coming out, that we read it and kind of compare and contrast as well. So for this month, again, we are reading Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. All right, let's get into it. Like I know we was debating before we even started this book. We had a little internal strife amongst our four friends here. So I'm really excited to hear how this is gonna turn out
Ah.
because yeah, it was a mess. So first question, y'all already know what it is. What did you think about this book overall? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? And look, I'm gonna come to my brother on this one because we
Yes,
was
please.
we was battling
Yes.
off top about how because he really
Didn't want to read
Did
the
not
book.
want to read this book.
He
yeah
fought us on this book.
he did not want to have
Tooth and
any part
nail.
of this. So I want to hear your inputs to kick this show off, to kick this book off, man. How did you feel about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be?
Okay. Like Chris stated, before we even started this, I was debating. I didn't even want to do this book. But, before going into reading her book, I didn't know a lot about Jada Pinkett Smith apart from was or is she even married to Will Smith? And the other thing is that I know she's friends with Tupac because she told everybody and their mama. And I will say that I found out like in the beginning of the book, like I was reading about her childhood, which was very interesting. But towards the end was like really like a snooze fest for me. And she was actually losing me with this spiritual journey, Cocoa Puffs. I don't know what she started talking about at the very end. But when you start disliking something and you still hope that it will get better, that was me. And that's how I actually felt about this book. She did mention like a couple of times that she did have a chip on her shoulder, but you can actually listen to that or read it as you was going through the book. And like, even though I was going throughout the chapters of reading the book, even when she got to her husband, or I don't know if they're still married, Will Smith, all I can say is like, wow, like you really like think of that. And I was just trying to understand about, her perspective. And I try to be understanding when, it comes to memoirs, but it just seems that she took herself way too seriously. And, all she did was just had to just be real. And even like a huge chunk of the book was even about Tupac. Like she uh, romanticize about him about the first 10 chapters, and I know because I counted. And a lot of the content of this book for me was like she was like rebuttal to Will's memoir, which I didn't find myself connecting nothing to this book. I didn't think it was organic, though she say she was on her spiritual journey. She didn't look like she took anything accountability towards on her end. She plays the victim a lot. She blames Will a lot about her shortcomings in this book, which I felt like I was disappointed like towards the end of the book. Something that I won't, that I want for Jada, even though I did not really like the book, but I don't think that it was Will's job to actually make her happy. If you read the book, you'll understand where I'm coming from with that. I think that that's a burden that you will put on someone else. Jada, because I know she's going to listen to this podcast. No one said that you had to bite the hand that feeds you, but you also don't have to disrespect it either. And I rated this book a 4.
He's like,
Wow. So
my
yeah,
God.
and so that's why I wanted to come to you, because I know you was gonna definitely add some flavor to this assessment, to this review of this book. Uh, Kimberly Lake, I'm gonna look. Hoping that you got a different take on this book. So Isaiah
I
just flamed Jada as a person
He
and the
did.
book, and we, again, as I mentioned in opening up, he didn't even want to read this book at all. So I was kind of
Oh
expecting that.
God.
But
Well,
okay, Kim, what were your thoughts about this?
I'll say this. I have a bit of a different take than Isaiah. With Jada in general, like I'm neutral about her. Like I don't hate her, don't love her. I knew her growing up as an actress and all that. So going into it, I just had that mindset. Now I listened to it on Audible. She narrates it. I did have to speed it up because she reads very like slow and controlled. So I did have to speed up a little so it could flow better. Once I did that, we were good to go. Now as far as the book, I don't agree, Isaiah. I think she does take accountability a lot throughout the book. I think she
Mhm.
says that. Even she said like, I thought I had it all together, my ego. She's like, I think I was a pseudo spiritual. Like she's like, I thought I was just high and mighty and will, and all these people didn't have it together, but I realized I didn't have it together. So I think she really did take a lot of accountability. I think, I gotta stand up for my free spirit sister, Jada. So on those accounts of her story, I can like see and relate to her in those aspects.
Mhm.
I thought she had a very interesting life growing up, her childhood, and I like when she started getting into her story because she really has done a lot on her own, but you really like the controversy and everything's overshadowed it. But
Mhm.
she sings, dances, she was directing music videos I didn't know about and producing
Mhm.
stuff. So she's very, very talented.
Mhm.
And I think her book was very interesting. I don't think it was like the greatest memoir of all time, but I did enjoy her story. Sure, I mean, we all have flaws, and when she was in her spiritual bag, I was kind of like, okay, because you listen on Audible, it's like a gong or chime and all that stuff. But and all her ayahuasca journey stuff. But besides that, I thought her story, yeah, it was interesting and good. So I would give her a memoir. I would give it a 7. I
Gotcha.
enjoyed it. Yeah. So I'll leave that there till the next questions.
Okay.
All right, so we got a 4 and a 7. Starting this review off, Laria Reed, come on, what you got? Let's keep this train
It'll
rolling.
be interesting.
What
Isaiah
did you
Jr.
think
Uh,
about
no.
Jada Pinkett Smith and Worthy?
Well, what I thought about it, so I remember my first Jada Pinkett was Lena James on A Different World.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when I'm listening to her talk, I'm like, oh, you really were Lena James in real life. Because what she portrayed to be was like this girl coming from, where I don't know if she was from Baltimore
I think
on
she
the
might
show
have
on A
been.
Different World. But I know
Mhm.
she said in the book that Debbie Allen cast her as
Mhm.
herself, where
Hmm.
she came,
Mhm.
she asked her about herself and cast her that way.
Mhm.
But she really did act like, and I used to say, this girl playing this role really well. Like, this seems, but it makes sense, even down to like Tupac coming and making a guest appearance on A
Hmm.
Different World. So, made sense. I understood that her childhood. I got that. Some things, now I'm not gonna lie, I got a pretty good lie detector on and a cap. I was just kind of thinking, I feel like some of this stuff is a little bit stretched. I mean, it just felt a little like You might be adding a
Hey,
little more
elaborate
to
on that. Do
it.
tell. Do tell.
It just felt like with her talking about she wanted to be a queen pin
Oh,
and
that's
you
it. That was
know
it for
and
me.
the whole thing and I was
That
I
was
was
it for
like,
me.
okay, and I'm not saying that she wasn't selling drugs, but
Right.
I just felt like it was a bit over. Everything was overly exaggerated to me.
Hmm.
Now I'm more of a direct person. So for me, that was it. I don't know if she was or not. God, please forgive me if I'm wrong, but it just felt really like
Mm-hmm.
it was too much. It was just like, because even, and I'll get into this in a second with the whole Tupac thing, but even with him, it was too much. Like if you're truly friends with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like something couldn't happen to one of y'all and I'd be like, and let me say another little thing that we talked about with forfeit. Like it's certain things I just feel like if you're a best friend to somebody, it don't matter how much money you're gonna pay. I'm not telling everything now, but I just felt like it was so much like, and he asked me to marry him, and then he asked my mom, and then he did it. It was just so much, and I
Who,
just
I
was
who,
say
like,
who, who,
I got a
who,
little bit
who?
retard.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little exhausted with that. And maybe that
Mm-hmm.
is her creative side. And I'm more of
Mm-hmm.
a grounded, tell me the facts. And then I kind of filter through the other things. But it's just, and I like Jada. I mean, I do, but I just feel like maybe her life is just like that. And I'm just, but it just was very dramatic
Mhm.
in the story to me. That's just me. She's just a dramatic person, and it wore me out a little bit in that aspect because I don't deal in that kind of person. But anyway, so I'll give it like, I mean, it was well, I could follow well. It was interesting. It took me a second after the first couple of chapters to get going. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
still give it a 7, 6.5, 6.8, 7. I'll round it up to a 7.
6.9.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll
Yeah.
round it up to a 7. But it was still a solid book. I don't want to, well, I will talk about all the other stuff, but let me lay my foundation. That's where I am
He's
right
one.
now.
Okay.
Can I
Let's
Yeah.
say
talk about
something?
this.
Go ahead, Isaiah.
So
It was. I'm like Laria. It was just like some parts were just too much. The queen pen situation. You got drugs inside of a tire. You jumping out of a car going through a neighborhood, and the police looking for you, taking you down to the station. Like, come on now. Like this is just some of this stuff is just exaggerated. Easy E calling you shortly before he passed away. Tupac constantly on your phone. Like you directing. I'm like. This is just, I know
I
you
said,
got celebrity friends, but this is just like too much. Like I mean, it was like everybody was looking for her to do something to the next. I'm like, Jada, come on now. This is just
Yeah,
exaggerated
because
too
even when
much.
she was talking about the video, she was like, and they took my idea and made that video. I said, girl,
Yeah, she
if
wanted to direct the
they were gonna
California
use
Love.
me.
Like, come
Yeah, but
on.
that was, I'm glad they used my idea and Hype Williams did it justice. So you done came up with everything.
look, why y'all trying to take Jada shine? She was telling the
Right.
truth.
And Easy E called me
Easy,
right
easy
before he
before
went
he
into
passed away.
ICU.
I wish I could have seen her one more time. Like, come on. Come
And
on
as
now.
soon as Tupac got shot, his mama called
Co-
me before anybody else. I'm like, if that were the case, I wouldn't have even remember. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it was a little clout chasery for
Very,
me with a
very.
lot of dead people that can't defend themselves. I should say.
she's like, you left it.
Nah.
But anyway, that's Luria Reed.
All right, so we got a 4 and 2 sevens on this book, Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith.
Hmm.
Great points. I think you guys all kind of highlight, some of the things within the book, and we probably jumped too far into the into our discussion
That's
already.
what makes it good.
It's good. It's good. For me, I really enjoyed the book. I did. Uh, I try to go into stuff with clean slates. Of course, we know Jada Pinkett Smith being the wife of Will Smith, Jaden and Willow, just the
Hmm.
whole Smith family, with their musical careers, been on the big screen, the small screen. So we're very familiar with them uh, on and off camera. I mean, even all the stuff I just talked about, even with the entanglements, the red table talk, all the shows that they've done and movies that they've done. And, it was kind of, you know, I guess kind of comical at a certain point because it's like I feel like Black Twitter and everybody else got to the point that's like, look, we just don't want to hear no more about
Mm-hmm.
nothing y'all got going
Right.
on. But I
Mm-hmm.
was still intrigued. I still wanted to hear her story. I still wanted to hear from her, and I was pleasantly surprised. She does take us on this journey of her life in writing her memoir, Worthy.
Mm-hmm.
She goes from childhood, as Isaiah mentioned, her being a the queen pin and dealing drugs and growing up in Baltimore and just how she's kind of
Mm-hmm.
traversed and um, throughout her life, and even get to the point of being severely depressed and suicidal and just things looking great on the exterior, but really having internal issues and problems and trying to come to a place of feeling worthy, which is I think the premise of this book. But I was surprised about a lot. I was intrigued. I also listened on Audible as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, so for me, it was a slower kind of listening. To Kim's point, I did have to kind of speed it up to kind of help keep things going. But it was good. I think she did a good job of really capturing overall her life experience. I don't know if she clout chasing. I just think she's telling her story. That's her perspective. That's kind of how
Okay.
what she felt that she lived in those moments. And a lot of it was really surprising for me. And we'll kind of talk about it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really just I applaud her for her transparency in other areas, even in talking about her spiritual growth and journey,
Mm-hmm.
um, and even being severely depressed. And I thought it was also cool that at the end of each chapter, she kind of gave some self help tips and kind of words of wisdom or encouragement, or even things to try for people that are reading or listening to her book to kind of help them on their journey as well. So I thought that was pretty cool and dope of her to kind of use her life experiences to try to be an example for someone else. If I had to rate the book, I can't agree with my boy Isaiah. He an outlier on this one.
I said,
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8. I thought it was good. I thought it was well written. I wasn't questioning her, even to like Laria's point. Like I'm just taking it for what she's saying. There was a lot of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how you fact check it, but I also don't know why she would lie about it at this
But
stage.
she was saying stuff about people that dead. That was
That's
what was
true.
killing
That's true.
me.
That's
No,
true.
I was
and
like,
I
we can't
understand that,
ask.
but if that's her truth, if that's her perspective of it, and I think this is kind of the format of her just kind of telling her story. Even the whole thing about the Tupac marriage. I mean, that's we hear from Tupac's, I think, was it his fiance or baby mama, whoever she was. Like she did confirm that was actually like an actual event that he did propose. So I guess there's some fact checking that could take place. All right, so look, we've kind of already touched on this topic and we've kind of jumped into it already, even kind of discussing some of our highlights and favorite moments or things that we just found really intriguing. Um, but let's dive a little deeper or even expand upon those things. What were you most surprised about hearing Jada's story as she kind of wrote in her memoir, Worthy? Was there any particular, Laria and Isaiah, they already dropped a dime on her as far as her potentially clout chasing or capping on some of her explanations of these stories. But was it something that you were really just surprised about hearing, or something that you just really couldn't believe as you were reading it or listening to this story, Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith? And I'm gonna come to Miss Lake on this one. Was there anything for you that really stood out or just was shocking to hear from her?
I'll say what stood out were a couple of things. One, her childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Both of her parents were drug addicts, and I know when you have stuff to happen to you as a child, that's like very foundational to your whole being. So I thought that was very interesting to hear about, like her how her father was like, I can't be your father. I can't imagine a parent telling me like, look, I can't be your mom or your dad. So that's like a lot for a child. And I thought her grandparents on both sides were very like interesting. Like all of them seem to
Mhm.
have like their
Mm-hmm.
own, they're affluent or, well off or well read. Just they were just very kind of like eclectic in a way. So I really liked
Mhm.
hearing about her grandparents. I actually loved hearing about her children. Trey, I think the oldest one, I never really hear about him. He's not in the forefront. So for her to really talk about him and highlight him and how like giving he is and smart he is and all that stuff, I thought that was interesting. Now, on the juicy side, the whole slap fiasco and her perspective of it. And like I didn't know Will Smith and Chris Rock had beef since like 88 to 89. Like I would have never knew that. So I didn't know they had this whole history behind them too with that. And just hearing her perspective on the whole slap and the entanglement, which is, the word everybody talks about today, but her perspective from that being that
Mm-hmm.
one, it was interesting to me that she said if she can go back, she wouldn't have suggested they like see other people in a way, like she would do things differently. Thought that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting about how the whole red table talk thing that blew up with her and Will, her version of events, and how like he wasn't even supposed to be on there, and all like his last minute coming on, and how it didn't even go how they wanted it to go, but they didn't want to put it out, but she said go ahead and put it out, and that's what like really tore her up in the public. So just hearing about all that, I thought was just very interesting from her perspective, because you hear all the tabloids and like the headlines, but just hearing her take on it, I thought all that was interesting. So all the things like the rumors that she talks about, clearing up, I thought that was very interesting.
Okay, good. Yeah, so if you guys haven't already read or listened, I mean, she go into all these chapters, the entanglement with August. He talks about the red table talking how they even came to be. There is a chapter, I think it's chapter, I thought I wrote it down, chapter 21, the holy joke, the holy slap, the holy lesson, where she really talks about that night at the Oscars in 2022 and her perspective of how all this stuff unfolded. And I kind
Mm-hmm.
of found it interesting and surprising that she actually wasn't even supposed to be there. Like her and Will had got into it, and she was really planning not to even attend. And so it's just
Shouldn't have
crazy
gone.
how that turn of events did
Mm-hmm.
happen. And her saying, she was shocked that he was saying my wife when the truth of the matter is they had been separated for a very long period of time. So I found that very interesting as well. Um, so you guys kind of already touched on this. So this whole queen pin stuff, like I never thought that Jada had any dealings with drugs or even like. So that was really shocking to me to even hear that portion of her childhood or growing up that she was actually, considered like a staple in the drug community or a queen pin per se in Baltimore. So I thought I was shocked and just completely unaware of that. And you guys also touched on it. So I didn't know that she was directing videos and that the you know the California Love concept was her concept and that she was supposed to bring that look that side eye from Maria. But as Jada states it, that was her concept to direct that video. And originally she was supposed to do it. But due to some changes of events and things going on with Suge Knight, she decided to kind of to bow out of that activity. So
No, no, no. Easy E called her
Oh
before he
shit!
went into ICU to tell her
I can
not
hear,
to be with Suge, and she didn't know that was going to be the last time they talked.
cause I can hear the
yeah.
It's a
cold.
movie.
It never went away, and I wish I could have just told him to go to get it checked out. I'm like, Jada, come on. You want to tell Easy to go and get his cold checked out? Like, come on, like really?
And I asked her, "Can I come see you?" He said, "No, I'm gonna be out, but I just wanted to make sure."
Like
Yeah. So yeah, just
Everything was like a last minute confession with everybody. And I was just like,
everybody.
everything?
yeah. So again, just a lot. Again, we know Jada on the surface. We know about her from Will, but we do get a different perspective. Whether it's completely truthful or there's some fabrication. Again, this is her
Hmm.
perspective of those events as she expressed here in her memoir, Worthy. So, Laria, what about you? Was there something that really shocked you? I know you already went in a little bit, but is there anything else, or was there a particular event or activity that really stood out to you as you were reading or listening to this book?
The biggest thing that stood out to me was the whole Tupac stuff. I gotta agree with Isaiah on that. I started feeling very uncomfortable listening. Because I mean, I was like, oh, they met in Baltimore. She was talking about how their parents were, addicted to drugs. I understood that. And even I understood a lot, but it just kept going and it kept going back to Tupac. And I'm like, you still got like a husband and kids. It's like the whole book was about, like a lot of the book was about her and Tupac. And I was just like, I don't know what man is going to be cool with you telling all your business about this guy that was just, it just, it felt so weird. And I started feeling bad listening because I was just like, are we okay with this, Will? I know y'all separated together, whatever y'all got going on, but it's just kind of like she talked about him more than she talked about him. And that was very, I just wonder if Will would have done that with a woman, how that would have gone over, especially with the slap situation. How would she have felt even with him talking about a woman as much as she did about that guy in the book? That kind of made me feel kind of, I don't know. I felt some kind of way on that. That was the most that was the biggest thing to me that I kept hearing. I was just
You
like,
look
okay,
disgusted.
we're still talking about Tupac and I love Tupac. But as like I'm saying, I have a great guy friend, and it's certain things. I don't care how much somebody paid me. It's something he's told me. I would never tell nobody. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like as a friend, you have to be friends with people even when they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
And she kind
So
of unloaded a lot of confidential, what I felt was confidential information about her friend. I don't
so
think I would have done that.
so you think she overshared? Is that what you're saying?
Very.
Yes.
Okay.
And kept going and wouldn't stop. And then Tupac, I was like, we back on him again. We in another chapter. How we got
even
back to him?
even her even her alopecia journey. Oh, Tupac when he
And
had
then when I
it,
saw him, he
like
had
come on,
alopecia.
and I
What?
got it, and it made me think of. I'm like, wait, made you think of Tupac?
I said, even if it did, it's like, okay, it was just,
No.
it was
Yeah.
very, to me, it was a little uncomfortable after a while. And I'm not saying that they weren't friends, but
Hmm.
some things I understand being transparent, but you doing jailhouse visits and what y'all talked about I mean, I felt like I was there the whole time. Like, man, okay.
Yeah.
If you gonna be friends with Jada, be ready for her to tell all your business if something happened to you. She gonna let it rip. But that was one of my things. I'm real big on friendships, and it doesn't
Hmm.
matter,
Hmm.
if you're here or not here. I just feel like you have to be loyal to a person to an extent. And I don't
Okay.
know if Tupac would have wanted everybody to know everything like that.
That's true.
That's just all I'm
Gotcha.
saying.
That's a good point. I wanted to see run this by his mother since they seem to have such a close
Did his mom
relationship.
pass?
I think his mom passed.
She did.
Yeah, I was about to say, did
Hmm.
she pass? Or was that
Hmm.
Biggie's mom still alive, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Biggest
Ain't
mom
she?
alive.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
Wow.
passed. I don't want to say.
Uh, I'm
Shakur,
not sure.
Shakur?
Afina.
Athena,
Yeah.
yeah, she passed. She passed away.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I guess you can do that. So yeah, ain't nobody here to.
Ain't nobody in the defense. I'm telling y'all. Even with Suge Knight, when she talked about Suge, I said, well, he locked up. He can't do nothing. Because she said he came to her house with his ashes in his
With the
hand
ashes in
and
the
gave them to
hand.
her. Why would he give you the ashes?
I forgot about that part.
Look at
Uh,
I'm telling you, I was just like, nah. That's like, wait a minute now. I understand y'all friends and all, but I
I
mean, we.
told you, clout.
I was like,
well, look, since we gonna keep this concept rolling, let's go roll on to Isaiah because he already done got started. Real, you done started him up again over here. So, Isaiah, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I have a two part.
Okay.
The first part it was really interesting when she was saying that she was getting into Scientology. You don't hear that a lot amongst us in our community as well too. So it was like interesting getting her experience. It's especially when she started dabbling to it. But she say that she study a lot of religions, but she don't you don't like organized religion. It seems like she really does not like to commit to anything based on the revelation of going through her story within the book. In the second part to that, Jada even said that she was separated from Will. So legally, her entanglement quotation, she did not consider that cheating. But it's just like, one part of the book, like I just kept bursting out laughing when she kept referring to August Alsina as an entanglee. I'm like, you can't even call the man name, but you call this man an entanglee. Like, come on. Like, come on. I think this lady just have, commitment issues, but not being so lighthearted. I think like I don't like comparing memoirs, but like from reading Will's memoir, as he described his wife, it really feels like he really loved her. He really cherished her, like he wanted the best for
Mm-hmm.
her. But when you
I
read
agree.
her story,
Mm-mm.
like I said, she romanticized about, as she called them, Pac, and the friendship and what Pac and the bond that they formed. But when it got to her husband, the one that you could make this commitment before God, you was like, oh, I met the Fresh Prince inside of a store, and it was the like you didn't even talk
Right.
about the man. Like you did. Did you like the man, or were y'all happy? Were you even happy? Like what was the problem? And that was like I was trying to hard to connect the issue. Like she said it was an issue and she didn't really she not just say that she didn't just like him, but it was just that the way that she described their relationship. I really
Yeah.
can tell like what was the root cause of what was the breakdown and what made them separate in 2017. And I think that's something that should have kept amongst them, but she just aired every single thing out, and it looks like I stated before, like the stuff that Will talked about in his memo, it's like she was waiting to write her book so she can rebuttal against what he was just saying. Like she always had to just give her own point of view, or like I think make herself being like this limelight, but Will wasn't really trying to do that towards you. Like he painted you in a good way, so it was interesting when she wrote her book, like dang, like, I don't even think she even really even like her husband, like, but she say she all about family, but when they start talking about her family, like now I won't take that from her, like she adore her kids, but for the Will side, I don't even think she really didn't like the
That
ideal of marriage,
weird.
but you didn't want a
I'm
divorce,
with
so
him
I'm
on
like,
that.
what? But why are you with him, but you don't want a divorce? So that's why I couldn't keep her with like she was losing me at the end.
Yeah. That's good. And honestly, the conversation we're having right now is a conversation I think a lot of people have already had, in social
Mm-hmm.
media and just throughout, because some of the same things we're saying here is what we kind of see from the masses or hear from the masses when it comes to Will and Jada. And there's a lot of opinions about their relationship and if she truly cares for him, or
Mm-hmm.
that they both, kind of have some issues that have, made their marriage,
Mm-hmm.
unconventional or not traditional in a certain degree. And so, yeah, I think the discussion we're having here is the same discussion that we've seen, within the media realms and other people talking and discussing,
That's
because they
true.
are public figures, and we do have a snapshot or a window into certain aspects of it. So yeah, but I can kind of agree. Yeah, it was kind of Tupac centered, and I would have expected more about Will, but maybe because he is still here and that is still a continuation. Maybe she feels like that story isn't complete to really write about it now. I don't
Or
know.
maybe she ain't studying him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
but
with the latter.
He said the latter.
Like, man, my boy ain't getting no time because he took a lot of time talking about her. Cause so I
He
yeah,
did.
expected, to walk through the whole thing. It was kind of like, we'll hear, we'll hear, will kids, upbringing, Tupac, 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 Tupac.
yeah,
I was kind of
yeah,
sad about that. I was like, dang, well, I guess the clock is ticking.
yeah. That's good.
Man.
So even with that, and that kind of leads into my next question, because again, we
Hmm.
know Will Smith, we know Jada Pinkett Smith, from their music careers, their acting careers, and just being the public figures that they are. This uh, before all this came out, it became a what we know of it today. They were historically considered like a power couple or whatever. Not so much now, but so since we have known so much about them, and they are the fact that they have been public figures, in reading this story and kind of hearing her perspective,
Hmm.
ab- about her life and just her the details of that. Was there anything that really changed your perspective about her? So again, we've kind of talked about what we thought, and yeah, I kind of mentioned that there might have been some oversharing about certain things, but did you have even a preconceived notion going into it, or something that was told within this book that really changed your perspective about her, based on the public perception that you may have had prior to? And I'm gonna come back to my brother Isaiah on this one, man.
Okay. You know what? After reading this book, nothing changed really about my perspective towards her. You know, I think
I'm saying.
I think the book tour that she did prior to the book coming out, that's really what spoiled it for a lot of people, because she gave everybody the meat. Like, she was just basically telling and spilling everything. Like, it was no need to even read the book, because she basically, you could watch her interviews and she told everything that Worthy was about. So I'm like, I don't even have to pick up the book. I can just watch something on YouTube about it. Like, and like, she just she overshared a lot of stuff. Like L'Oreal say, some stuff you just need to be a private. Some stuff just does not even be need to be shared. And some stuff is just seeing that she just basically over exaggerated about a little things. So I think a lot of my perspective went down from my point of view of her. Like the Queen Pen, there was like a lot. You still have an image too, not saying that you should be some perfect pattern, but you still got an image as well too. So selling drugs and all that stuff, like it changed my perspective a lot about her. So it's not really no good, no bad. I'm just remain neutral. I think a lot of the stuff that's in this book, she's really complex, and it was like slightly narcissistic. And
So ultimately, you just ain't checking for Jada no kind of way. You just
at
ain't.
all, at all, at all,
Hilarious.
Yeah,
at all.
which is crazy because we knew that. Again, we had this discussion before we even started reading this book, and so we all knew. The rest of us knew, like Isaiah wasn't really, like, he didn't want to read this book at all. So I was hoping that you would potentially change after reading the book, but what I'm hearing is that, yeah, there was nothing she said that even convinced you otherwise. So you still got the same sentiment as before. Okay. All right, Kim, the real. Do y'all have any new perspective or any new awareness about Jada based on I guess, the public perception that you may have had prior to reading this book?
I'll let Kim go.
Sure. Um, my perception of her didn't change because, like I said before, I didn't hate Jada or super, super love Jada. Like, I was just like, oh, Jada's cool, growing up, her being around.
Mhm.
I will defend her on this, Isaiah. Like the whole book rollout, I think a lot of that too had to do with the media. I think if you go by like all the clickbait titles and what they put out as, quotes from the book, you would think her book was all about that. But there was a lot of stuff in her book that I think you could glean or learn from if you just, listen with the open mind. So I'll defend her on that part. But I just think with Jada, I mean, yes, I think she is dramatic, but she talks about that. She talks like when she was little in the little play, and she got a hint of the spotlight from doing her dance battles and all this. Like, she is dramatic. She loves the spotlight. I think that's just who she is. So I can't knock her for that. So I don't have nothing changed in my perception of her. I just think with her, with me, I think you just kind of what she presents is just how she is, and I think with her, it's like you either take it or leave it. So, you know, that's how
Yeah.
I feel about Jada. And shout out to Jada because she has been reposting us in her stories. So shout out to Jada for that.
Yeah, shout out to Jada. She has shown Four Friends in a Book podcast some love, so we definitely appreciate
Yay.
you, Jada, for that, and even reaching out to us common people down here.
Ah. Look, let me clean up my talk now since Jada reposted. Thank you, Jada. We
Ah,
love
look,
you.
go give it
Thank
give
you,
it to
girl.
her. Keep it funky. What you got, Laria?
Well, I was gonna say I really appreciated her talking about her mom with addiction, and really opening up about that. That's a story for a lot of people, but they were never successful the way she had been. Um, so I admire her for that, to come out of just she basically raised herself, if we're honest about it, because she said her mom wasn't there. She was able to do whatever she wanted to do. And I mean, if you're a teenager and you can do whatever you want to do, I mean, I don't know what I would have done if my mom was never there or was high or whatever, you know. So
Mhm.
it was a lot of things that she was able to do that she should not have been able to do as you know, and raising herself. She still had a good foundation, but she was still a teenager. And so I admire her grit and even going to college and saying, you know what, I need to just go on and start acting and acting on what she really wanted to do. So that's
Mhm.
something that I didn't really, I knew her mom was an addict, but just to hear her go through the
Mhm.
stories about that, that's commendable for her to be where she is and to have gone through all that she went through to get where she is today. So
Mhm.
that's one thing that I definitely admire about her. I admire her for her honesty. She's almost too honest. I want to be like, girl, that's enough. But it's your memoir. That's the way she operates. She talks out, you know, she talks
Uh-huh.
about everything.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of that has gotten her on Black Twitter and in all the other areas, you
Black
know, with
Twitter.
her honesty. But
Mhm.
sometimes I just feel like I just wish I could tell like hold some back, you know, just a little bit. You give us enough so we know, but
Mhm.
not so much to where you open yourself up to a lot more criticism than you have to have. But
Mhm.
I guess she don't care anyway. So
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's what I did learn and that I really didn't understand. Like Kim talked about with her grandparents. I'm like, what? You came from like your parents came, your mom came from a really good family, you
Mhm.
know? So, but yeah, both of her parents.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nah, I for me, I think is again, I kind of went into it trying to have a clean slate. And kind of to Kim's point, I think she's just a free spirit. I think she has that very kind of eclectic, eccentric type of, personality. And I think for her, it may be, I don't know, maybe freeing or kind of more fulfilling to just, stand in her truth and be transparent and put this information out, which is somewhat different from what we kind of typically get from Will. Like Will is so polished and he has his presentation, just well groomed, well mannered, just the all American guy type of persona. And Jada has seemed to go on this evolution and journey and almost unapologetic about that process for her. And so um I think she did do a good job of kind of capturing and highlighting it. Did she overshare? Yeah, possibly, but I also think that sometimes it's necessary, and maybe for her it is freeing to do so. Typically we kind of look at public figures or actresses or actors and kind of being in the limelight that they have these perfect lives. And so she was very forthcoming in her just description of how she was feeling and her battles with depression. And even like considering taking her life, driving off the cliff of a mountain,
Mhm.
and really the thought of her kids and the other things being kind of deterrents from that. Of course, she talks about her little journey with ayahuasca. Will he goes through that as well in his book, so they definitely had that shared
They love
experience.
it. Let's
I
do
think
one
the whole
together.
yeah, I think the whole family probably has probably done it. I think they probably have
Mhm.
all
She
as
said
a
she
as
said
a
that,
family.
and her
Yeah,
friends.
yeah. So they and even like Will, Will got on this trip of he doing it a whole bunch of times. So Jada has done it as well. So I think they are actually very similar in certain regards. And I ain't gonna put all this on Jada. I think her and Will both have some traumatic life events that they've gone through
They
that
do.
has shaped
Hmm.
their
Look at it.
perspective and their outcome. And I think when they have come together as these two, um, because honestly, like I said, they have committed to each other. They've said that they will be separated, but they will never legally divorce because they're honoring their commitment that they went into it with, that they would never, part ways. And so in their own special way, I think that makes sense to them. And so again, I think they both have some special ways about them, if I could just put it nicely. But yeah, I think Jada really gave perspective
Hmm.
and experience. And also to Kim's point, I think she was trying to give actionable steps to the readers and listeners, with even some advice and guidance as far as how to navigate certain situations based off of the experience that she's gone through. And so I think that was an honorable thing for her to do. So man, so look, we done went in on this book, Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. Man, if you guys haven't checked it out, definitely pick it up.
Hmm.
So 3 out of 4 of us, we was 7, 8 range. Isaiah just he wasn't feeling her from the start, so it was kind of expected. But um, I think if you do pick up this book and read it, just gotta go in with an open mind. Is it cap? Is she oversharing? Is she not sharing enough? Who knows? I mean, this is her perspective. This is her memoir, so she wrote it in the manner that she felt was best fitting. But here on Four Friends in the Book, we definitely recommend it. Outside of Mr. Tukes over here, he wasn't checking for it at all. And so, with that being said, yeah, go check the book out, pick it up, read it. We enjoyed it over here.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, all right. So y'all already know what time it is. It would not be a show without it. Our favorite segment of the show, which we entitle The Rant. 60 seconds, uninterrupted, from none other than Mr. Rant Man himself, Isaiah Tukes. Look, he been ranting this whole episode. He been going in on Jada and her entanglement, Tupac, alopecia. Like he didn't hit all the buzzwords, the red table. She don't like Will. Like he's been ranting this whole episode. So the boy already warmed up. I'm kind of
Right.
I'm actually a little afraid because we never know we getting. But brother, the floor is yours. Starting now. Go.
Andre 3000's new album has caused a lot of controversy. For those that don't know, he's one half of the rap legendary group Outkast. Many of his fans are upset because they wanted a hip hop album, but his album is chill, peaceful, exactly what he wanted to do. No, he is not a master musician. I was not expecting that, nor was I expecting him to rap or sing. How many people have the courage to be free and not to be stuck in the past? What's not normal is for folks in their 40s and 50s clinging onto their views and standpoints from their 20s. You have to look at it. Redman is a certified skydiver. Big Boy is a dog breeder and a pit master, and Twister is a gun instructor and a competitive shooter. I love seeing my favorite artists explore life beyond hip hop. Andre 3000 dropping a flute album and selling more in his first week than a decent hip hop album in 2023 needs to be studied. Muhammad Ali said it best. A man who has the same views as he did in his 50s as he does in his 20s has wasted 30 years of his life. This quote is how I want some of you to understand Andre 3000 in 2023. Stop expecting his worldview to match the moment you were introduced to his talents in the 90s. And that's that on that.
That's good. That's
Least I
good. Look at
like
it. Y'all
that
listen to the
one.
album. Did y'all check the album out?
I
I
listened
have
to
not.
2 songs. I was like,
I
I
like the
start,
flute album.
I started laughing because it's just like it's Andre 3000, so I'm still trying to get used to that. I'm like, okay, is he gonna say anything? And
But
it's
he
just,
He said no.
it's very calming though,
I'm
very
gonna check it out
calming.
though. As a
I like
fellow
it though,
flute player,
yeah.
I have to
But it's
listen to
good
it.
music though. It's very good. I just wasn't, you're just not expecting that from Andre 3000. That's
but he
all.
he's been traveling with this flute for the last 15 years. So I mean, it was
I ain't never heard
expected.
it. I didn't
It was
expect it.
expected.
Yeah, he's been
I'm
on
ready
here.
for some music because he's
Yeah,
such a great lyricist. I'm ready for him to say something, but
I'm curious as to this world tour and concert. Like, how is that gonna go when you just rocking out with the flute? But
it's gonna be a whole bunch of people smoking weed, listening to him play the flute. I already know this is gonna be an illegal event
Ah.
by the time it's done.
but that's good. That's good. All right, brother. We thank you for again enlightening us with your rant and just giving us some different perspective. Even though you ain't giving that same grace to Jada, we appreciate you. All right, so we just wrapped up the book Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith here on Four Friends in the Book. Look, we didn't talk a whole bunch about this book, and again, I'm pretty sure if you, unless you're living on the rock, you're very familiar with the Smith family. You probably have some perspective about Jada as well. So, if you love books, if you want to read a good memoir, whether you love, hate, whatever, I think it's definitely a good read. So we enjoyed it here on Four Friends in the Book, and we just wrapped up our rant for this month. So Isaiah enlighten us about Andre Three Stacks and the new Flute album. So and the evolution and then being a new man and not being stuck in his ways. So
Hmm.
Isaiah, tell them what we have coming up for next month on Four Friends in a Book.
Hey, you guys, you don't want to miss this next episode. We're going to be touching on the book, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rahita Walker. Laria, please tell the viewers when they can tune in.
You guys can tune in with us every third Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We would love for you to be with us.
Mhm.
Yes, we would. And make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. And if you love our podcast, leave us a review. We would love to hear what you love about our podcast, and other people can see it too.
Most definitely. And guys, again, we just appreciate your support here on Four Friends of the Book. And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow. Let's have a discussion right here on Four Friends in the Book. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.